Hello, welcome to Full Record Jacket with Phil and Ben, and another of those editions where we simply sit here. It's almost as if you joined us down the pub and we're talking about what we've been listening to. And we might even show you as well in those cases, particularly where Ben might have a slice of vinyl with some nice artwork on it to show you. So, Ben, what have you been listening to?
Um, I haven't been listening to anything, Phil. Don't know why I've even bothered doing this for. I mean, why did you come to me? No, I'm only joking, Phil. I'm only joking. Let me move my desk now. Come in closer, son. Come in closer. Right. Um, I've been listening to Coat Mix vinyl wise this week. I've been listening to this album here by the Pocket Gods, Jesus and the Mary Chain.
Yeah, you showed me that, and I thought I'd never heard of that album by the Jesus and Mary Chain, and it turns out it's not an album by the Jesus and Mary Chain. It's the
No, it's
Pocket Gods.
Pocket Gods. Yeah, I think they're from St Albans or that sort of way, Stevenage, Lutony way.
Not a
It's
place normally associated with rock and roll, particularly,
no.
but
I wouldn't even say this is possibly. I'm just going to move my mic. I wouldn't even say it's that rock and roll. It's almost. I don't know the best way to describe it. Really, it's not odd. It's kind of. It's a mixture of many different genres, sort of thrown into one mix, but it's quite eclectic and it's just a good listen, really. So I can't really give you. There is. My reading is awful. My eyesight's getting worse. But yeah, no, it's a very, very good album. I was actually pleasantly surprised by it. It's one of those ones I saw it and I did actually think a bit like you. I thought, oh, Jesus and the Mary Chain. I'll never seen that one. Looks a bit odd, but no, it's yeah, it's good. I honestly can't tell you the genre that it falls into because it seems to sort of fuzz over a couple of genres really, but it's worth a listen if you get time, place, money, ears. Then the best thing to do, instead of me trying to describe it, is if you go and listen to it, then you can try and tell me what sort of genres it covers because I think there's a little bit of
okay.
folk in there, a little bit of electronic, so it's good, very good. Do you want to know what else I've been listening to?
Go on, give us another one.
I've got it here in front of me, and I was pleasantly surprised by this because I always liked. I think it was the '96 single "Being Brave." Always like that, but they always looked a little bit wishy-washy, a bit arty-farty. Um, but it's the Menswear album "Nuisance" from I think
Oh
not
yeah.
95,
Now
96.
you mentioned this before, so you've been playing it.
I've been playing it. I was expecting a lot of sort of, you know,
I
but
still haven't listened to the band properly. I don't know it at all. That album.
it's very much that sort of what were we saying the other day. Very sort of it's in that Elastica suede, maybe a little bit of Blur in there. Yeah. There's a couple of those sort of. It's like a mashup of those sort of a bit of Sleeper, I'd say. That
Okay.
sort of you know yeah that sort of vibe to it. But it was actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be. So I was actually really. I was expecting it to be a bit sort of wet, and I've always wanted the album because I've always liked that artwork, and it's on an orange vinyl as well. So it's, but I've always quite liked the artwork, and that very, very 90s clothes, as you can see there. And this guy here, the drummer, I think either reads the news or does some show on BBC Radio 6, is it? Other radio stations are available. But very pleasantly surprised by this.
So menswear, something you don't mind putting on.
I don't mind pulling on menswear. If there was ladies wear, I'd probably put that on as well. I'm not, not saying I'm
So there
not
you go.
perchant to a nice slummer's blouse, but yeah, good
Now
album. Good album.
to do a link, you mentioned Sleeper there.
Yeah,
Sleeper did the cover of Atomic by Blondie,
they did. Yeah,
and I start.
late
I have
'90s,
it.
'97 was it?
I have this thing that something reminds me of an artist or a band, and whatever reason, I hear a track, and then I suddenly dive back into some of their stuff, and I did that with Blondie,
Mm.
and and sometimes I listen to the records, and sometimes, of course, I end up looking on YouTube, and there's still a lot of stuff by artists that I know a fair bit about and I've listened to over the years. I still haven't seen a lot of their videos or concert clips and things on YouTube. So I ended up watching and listening, obviously, to quite a few clips of Blondie. I can't think why Blondie is a band that I'm visually drawn to, but particularly the old stuff from the 70s. But I'm sure people can work that one out. But yeah, I mean, I think they were, and I thought they're still touring. And this is the amazing thing. Debbie Harry is going to be 78 in July this year,
Same age as my
and
dad.
there's videos from last month. They're performing in Bogota and places in the US. They're currently on this tour, and it still sounds like Blondie. And she's still, and I have to say, Debbie must have a much, even though she can't have made as much money as Madonna, because Madonna's the most successful woman artist of all time. But Debbie Harry has definitely got a better plastic surgeon than Madonna, because she still recognizably looks like as still the same person. She's older,
Yeah.
but you can still tell that she's the same person. Which with
Doesn't look
other
like a shaved potato.
exactly. So unlike certain other female iconic superstars I could mention, she is still recognizably the same person. So that's quite cool. But yeah, and I've also been looking at a bit of Blondie history, reading a bit of stuff I didn't know. I've always enjoyed the band. I've always enjoyed a lot of their hits, and I was a little bit too young to really be into them in the late 70s, early 80s. I was alive at that time, but not
You
old
very
enough
much were.
to be cool enough to have been into them at the time. But but obviously Blondie, a great New York band, and that then sparked me off to think of other New York music. So I've been compiling a playlist called, well, at the moment I've just called it New York Attitude, right? So these are all bands and artists who are either from New York or got so drawn into being and recording in New York that they basically became native adoptive New Yorkers. And these are records, they're not all songs about New York, but they've got to be songs that have got a bit of a New York attitude. So just some of the ones on here. Kicks off with a Blondie track, and then we've got Grandmaster Flash, The Message. We've got Subterranean Homesick Blues by Bob Dylan. There's a New York Dolls track. Have you ever listened to the New York Dolls first album?
No.
If you haven't, then we're going to have to get you into that. There's a Lou Reed track. There's Ramones, and then other acts that are from New York. You may not have known this. Interpol.
Really?
They're from New York.
Never knew that.
LCD Sound System.
Oh yes, yeah, I remember them.
Band. Classic band from the 70s, one of the sort of key alternative bands. Television.
Oh yes, yeah, I remember Television.
They were from New York. Another band who are still around now, Parquet Courts. They're from I think they started in the 2000s. The Beastie Boys, of course.
Brooklyn's finest.
And I've tried to expand the range of this. So I've got some oldies as well. Leslie Gore, she was from New York, and Dion, he's a New Yorker. A couple of there from the 50s, 60s. Billy Joel, Simon and Garfunkel, of course, they're New Yorkers. Lenny Kravitz.
Oh, is he?
He's a New Yorker, yeah.
Would you put John Lennon on there?
He's on there as well, because I think he was an adoptive New Yorker, and there are some tracks that you could say fit the New York attitude. I put Meat City as the John Lennon track, which I think has got some New York attitude. There's a couple of others I could have had. Cyndi Lauper, another New Yorker.
Yeah.
Talking Heads, of course, are famously from New York. A few more hip hop ones: Tribe Called Quest, Run DMC, Patti Smith. Of course, she's a New Yorker. The Yeah Yeah Yeahs, and of course another heavy rock band, an iconic heavy rock band known for makeup, are from New York. Yeah, they're New York.
Really?
Yeah,
where were the Strokes from?
They're New York as well. They're on this list as well. The Strokes, New York. Got an early track by somebody I just may have mentioned, Madonna, because she was in the New York scene, so she had New York attitude. Public Enemy, Sonic Youth, Galaxy 500. I've got a Rolling Stones track on here because Mick became a bit
New
consumed by
York.
New York in the 70s, so I got Shattered by the Stones because that is his sort of rant about Manhattan. St. Vincent, she's from New York.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Steely Dan, New York band. Now, of course, Bruce Springsteen is famously from New Jersey,
Yes.
but of course he made his records in New York, and New York gets referenced in some of his songs, so he's on there.
Were Bon Jovi
Also,
from that way? Weren't they
yeah,
from?
they are from New Jersey, but I
Yeah. Didn't they have an
don't.
album called New Jersey? Like New
No,
Jersey.
they did have an album called New Jersey. I can't think. I'm not. I don't have extensive knowledge of the Bon Jovi deeper catalogue, but I can't think they did much that was really about New York or New
No.
Yorkie. Um, Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
New Yorkers. Alicia Keys.
Lyric for New
I
York.
think there's. I think
Jay
Jay-Z
Z
is it.
from New
He,
York.
I think he is as well. Yeah, he's also from there. The Lovin' Spoonful. They were a New York
Oh, really?
band. Ever heard of Mink DeVille? They were from New York. So were the Scissor Sisters,
Jake Spears
and
and Animatronic.
I quite liked the first album of Scissor Sisters. I thought it was quite groovy when it came out, and then
Yeah.
I got a bit bored of them because they became all pervasive, didn't they?
They
And then
almost
they
became a
just
parody of themselves.
yeah, I kind of got a bit bored of them. But then I thought, well, I put the Scissor Sisters, so I've also got Village People on the list.
Yeah, we'll put that one in.
I went for Macho Man rather than YMCA just to be a bit different. And then I thought, what else can I put on this list? And I thought, well, of course, Ben's favourite jam band from New York, the Spin Doctors. So I put their 10-minute funk jam, Shinbone Alley, on there. Just I might make you listen to that. So there's quite a few. I'm sure there's more New Yorkers. Anyway, I will give that. We may release that list at some point when I've
Yeah.
sort of
But do you
finished
know
it
what?
off.
Do you know what? All this talk of New York, I sense a segue. Because guess who sang about New York? And then I think his video is the last proper filmed video of the Twin Towers, because I think it was filmed on the Friday before September the 11th. But tomorrow
Okay, well,
I'm going to see Ryan Adams tomorrow.
I was going to say it's not Sinatra. It's got
It's
to
not
be Ryan
Sinatra. I'm not going
Adams.
to see him. No.
No. So
So,
yeah, and
but he
have you
obviously did
seen
the
Ryan?
track New York, New York.
Yeah, have you seen Ryan Adams before? I can't
No,
remember
but
now whether you've seen him.
I was going to get the train to go and watch him, but the last train back may have left Dodge by the time he's actually finished, because
Right.
he a bit like Neil Young, he does have a reputation for elongating the performance.
So does he have? He's doing this with a band, but
No,
is he?
it's just
He's
him.
not. It's totally solo. Because I was going to say, when I've seen recent stuff of Ryan Adams, he's tending to be with a band, but they're playing relatively mellow stuff. He's not doing
Unless he has
rocking
got some sort of
stuff.
percussion with him, but as far as I'm aware, it's him, an acoustic guitar, and a piano.
Yeah, and I
So,
can imagine he's got enough songs, and he does. I can imagine he can cast enough of a spell to keep an audience,
and do you know what?
enraptured.
That almost segues as well to he could almost cast no shadow, because I think this week he officially released his What's the Story Morning Glory cover.
Oh, right, okay. Well, we've already talked on this channel about
Yeah.
his cover of Nebraska by Springsteen. I don't think we've talked about the Bob Dylan one, have we? I don't think we've done that.
We did.
Or did we?
No,
Oh, we
I don't
touched
know.
on that, did we? We may have
Yeah.
touched on that, but Ryan Adams has this thing for doing cover versions, not just of songs, but of entire albums. And he's done a Springsteen album, he's done a Dylan album, and now he's doing an Oasis album.
He is.
In fact, he's turned it into a double album by doing all the B-sides as well, I
He
believe.
has, yeah. Which I'm wondering whether they'll do any of it tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised if he does Wonderwall.
Now, Ryan Adams, with a lot of these rock covers, he certainly did it with Wonderwall. He's done them in the more subdued, reflective
Bluesy
kind
sort
of versions,
yeah.
and that's kind of similar in a way to what U2 have done on this Songs of Surrender album, which has
Oh, the
got a lot
Songs
of
of
people talking about.
Innocence.
Songs of Surrender, is the
That's it.
new one where they've redone.
I actually really like that. I've listened to it a couple of times.
Well, I have listened to it, and I haven't. I want to do a little review of it, but I don't want to review it until I've listened to it properly and absorbed it properly. A lot of people have had things to say about this record. A lot of people have had things to say about it before it came out, and based their opinion on one or two sample tracks. But I am also of the opinion that this is not as bad as some people are saying, and that bits of it are actually very good and perhaps worthy of attention.
Yeah.
I had the view that maybe this was something that only really hardcore U2 fans would appreciate. It was a fans only album, in the same way as like a live album or something. It's not an album that you would recommend to people unless they're really into the band. But then maybe it's done well commercially, from what I can gather.
Yeah,
So,
well, you know what I said when I first heard a couple of tracks. I thought it sounds like demos, but I actually think it gives some of the songs a bit more heart because it's a bit more
yeah,
stripped back. That lack of production, it sort of gives them a
that's
bit.
what they wanted to do. But I think we can go into that a bit more.
Yeah.
We should do a specific review of that album, and then the people who love U2 can watch that video because they'll find it, and the people who hate U2 will watch it or leave comments as well. So,
Or just burn us at a stake somewhere in a town centre. But lastly,
we'll do
but
that.
not least, Phil, I've been listening to this as well. I haven't listened to it all the way through. It's on the record player at the moment. But it's by a band called Waco. Obviously, probably not an album favoured by the FBI. But it's called
You've reminded me of something there, because
Rock Spirits and Absolute Joy.
There's a documentary on Netflix about Waco, about that
siege,
week. And I was gonna. Is it worth watching?
Very good, very good. Some of the footage and that they've got, obviously, it's not been released before. It is very, very good, and it's amazing how quickly that whole thing just descended into chaos.
Okay, well, I'll watch
that. But very,
that.
very good. Yeah, watch that. Maybe we should do documentary reviews as well. But this is a good album, bit punky, bit rocky. I've not listened to it all the way through yet, but I will get round to listening to it. But so far, so good. The production's, it's not your sort of U2 big band sort of levels. It sounds raw, Phil stuff. So
I like a bit of raw. So
it's
that
good,
sounds good.
Yeah, some of these sort of albums you get by these smaller. I know sort of production these days, even at a base level, is probably far better than what it was. It's probably what production was like 20 years ago. So you still get a sense of depth and flavour to the music. But I do like that sort of rawish sort of flavour to it all. So that's what I've been listening to. And apart from an eclectic mix of various songs playing through certain playlists, that is Taylor's listening for now.
That is what we've been listening to. Thanks for listening to us. Give us a like, give us a share, leave a comment. We love the comments. Thank you very much for them. And thanks for watching. Join us for another video, and we will be there to do it very soon. All the best.